Adventures calling, treasure awaits. Join us on a journey, let's open the gates. Welcome to the pod where the treasure is found. X marks the pod, let's gather around.
Hey, welcome to X Marks the Pod, the podcast for treasure hunters by treasure hunters. I'm Bruce on the ground, joined today by Jaws and Megan. What's going on, guys?
Hey, we're preparing for a big snowstorm down here. I think we're about to get 12 to 18 inches, and so we're tucking in tight. We're only supposed to get snow, but I think Jaws is supposed to get some ice.
Yep, down here in Houston, we're getting called for 0.1 to 0.7 inches of ice coming at us, which I know to Bruce is laughable, but to Texas, that shuts down everything. Grocery stores are empty, generators are sold out, people are flipping out for one day of winter that we have to survive. So hopefully we'll live through it.
Well, very good. I'm sure you guys will do fine. You're professional treasure hunters. You know how to take care of business and make sure that you're safe in all situations. So I have no doubt that you'll be fine. Hopefully you have enough to eat and things like that. Any issues there? We good with our food? I know the grocery stores run out of food in the South really quick in this situation.
All of our shelves went empty, so I scored 3 loaves of bread, and we're going to have some peanut butter and jelly and some fire food, whatever we can toss on the fireplace.
Very good. Jaws, you set for provisions?
Yeah, and we got a gas fireplace in our house, so every time the power grid goes down here, we're fine. We just fire up the fireplace and get cozy in the living room, and everyone sleeps there until the power comes back.
Very good. Well, I would just follow the same kind of rules that John put in the book about being safe treasure hunting. Use that with snowstorms. I think you'll be fine. So look forward to
the air mattress blown up in the living room is better than I sleep when I'm boots on the ground in my car. So I'll take it.
That's true. You do rough it. I give you a lot of credit for that. You're hardcore out there. Hey, today we are going to talk about the Appalachian Foot Trail box, which admittedly is the box we are least focused on. I guess I'll put it that way. So we needed to bring in an expert. We need someone help with our solves, with how to use the maps, the methodologies. So we are excited today to have Trisha, aka My Scatty, on Discord here on X Marks the Pod. Welcome, Trisha.
Hey, thank you guys. I'm really excited to be here. It's a special treat.
Well, very good. We appreciate you taking time to come talk with us because we need to get some education here. I know you're a former AA school teacher, and so we need that learning. So how did you get into treasure hunting, period?
So it was an accident. Really, I didn't know modern treasure hunting existed, and it came from sort of a sad place because a year ago, right around this time, my school, I opened and owned and operated a Montessori school, beautiful school. We were on winter break. It was an old building that we were leasing, and there was an electric fire, and my school burnt down. And
oh, wow.
It was a very sad time, and it really changed my professional life. I had a lot of scrambling to do to get the elementary children, off into other schools. We moved the preschool back to my house, and I already had teachers. So for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't working full time, and I had a little time on my hands. And I saw an Instagram post about this really interesting guy, and he was giving away a lot of treasure, and I thought it was interesting. And my husband and I will be retiring soon and RVing, and I thought, wow, that would be so fun. So I went and got a copy, and then I made the mistake of reading it. And a year ago, and I'm hooked, and we're not retired yet, but that's how it started.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you had such a tragedy had to draw you to this and give you the spare time to do that. But I know that we're excited to have you in the community. You're a frequent contributor on Discord, always mixing it up with people and sharing things. So we appreciate your time, even though, it did come from a not so great place. But, a lot of kids would be like, hey, that's great. The school burned down. I shouldn't make a joke about that. Sorry. But anyway, hey, why the AT box?
So it turns out that here in Rockland County, New York, I live right next to Bear Mountain, Harriman State Park, Bear Mountain State Park, and that is where the first official section of the Appalachian Trail was built back in the old days, in the 1920s. And so, and when I say close, like I can be in the park, boots on the ground, anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes, depending on which section, which allows me, whenever I come up with a theory, I want to check something out. If I have the time after work, if it's still light out, I can just hop in my Scatty and drive right on up there. So I'm really fortunate in that way. Doesn't mean that it's there, but that's how I'm playing it right now.
All right. Well, color us #jealous that you're able to just get out boots on the ground. I think for each of us, for ourselves, we're way more than 15 or 20 minutes away from where we need to go. So that's awesome. You talked about you and your husband retiring soon and taking the RV. Any plans to go look for other boxes while you're out RVing?
We'll see. We'll see. You know, my husband loves the West, so we're going to be, you know, heading that direction. So you never know. I might be on the trail.
Perfect. Well, if you come by Colorado, drop by and say hi. We'll buy dinner and keep you from getting to my salt places. So,
and you can start working on that Beyond the Map's Edge treasure hunt too if you're going to go out west.
Oh, that's a good point. That's the other one out there we haven't gotten into yet. Okay, so Trisha, again, thanks so much for coming on. I know you sent some slides to Jaws, and I'm just basically going to let you go do your thing. Tell us what you want to share with us, your methodologies, how you got to where you're at, and yeah, well, I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions for you. But please tell us what you got.
Okay, great. So I thought for tonight, I wanted to, the question, I'm not presenting a full solve. I don't even have a full solve. I like to call them theories because I felt like if it was a solve, I would just go and get the box. So, you know, I've worked on a variety of ideas, all, you know, for the last year. But what I wanted to talk about tonight was the map and its scaling. Like what's a way that we can be confident that we're using the right scale? How do we know? And so I have an idea, and I thought I would throw it out there for you guys and for the community to just, you know, put another idea in the mix.
Perfect. Can't wait to hear it.
Okay. So in our area here in New York, we have something called the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, and they were instrumental in the early days, like in the early 1900s, in the trail making business and the map making business. And those maps, those paper maps, are pretty much the gold standard around this area. And so I have the northern section of the Harriman State and Bear Mountain State Park map, and that's what I was working off of. You can get those online also. But the question I wanted to answer is how, if we're using maps, if we're using a digital copy of the AT treasure map, if we're using digital copies, whether we're working on our phones or our computers, how do you decide how to scale things? For me, I needed to have something that made sense, some way. So I decided, and I was working off of this paper map, and I found a couple of fun, maybe they're coincidences, but maybe not. So I found a couple things on my New Jersey, New York conference trail map that I'm choosing to interpret as a clue for the correct scale. So the first one, the first one is when the map is open, the logo. Oh yeah, great, and you could see it there. So in the middle of the page there, you could see some circles. The map has its logo on the inside of the map, kind of like in the legend area. Just so happens that it is the exact diameter of the compass on the AT box map. I took a transparency, like basically like just a clear laminated plastic, and as carefully as I could traced the AT treasure map onto clear plastic, and that's how I could lay it on top of my paper map. And I thought that was pretty cool that it lined up exactly. So I thought that's pretty cool. And then I don't know if it shows up so well there, but in the legend of the paper map, I noticed at some point it said the scale was 1 to 36,000, which to me was a little spidey sense because we've heard that right? We've heard that in the chapters, that JCB prefers a 36,000 foot view.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've ever come across anything that uses that terminology. I think people were just sort of saying, oh, it just means an aerial view, or it means up in the airplane, or and so I just thought, okay, I'm going to run with it, because maybe that's another clue that this is the map I could be using for my search. So that's
Perfect.
what got me kind of going here. And I'm going to skip right ahead to, if you don't mind, how I actually used my transparency overlay on this Bear Mountain map.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm assuming that you got Bear Mountain from the big picture of the bear on the map. Is that too much of a leap?
No, it's not. It's not. And, you know, I skipped that part. There are, in the very beginning days, I thought if I looked at all the major, like the biggest icons, not any hidden pictures or anything that you use, you know, you need to like use a microscope on. I could make a pretty big circle around more than Bear Mountain, but like the whole area around here. I could make a case that it's geographically relevant, but really it was the bear by the stones, because Bear Mountain and Stony Point are in that exact orientation right in my backyard.
Got it. Well, how convenient for you. Nice. So what's the next step? Where do we go from here?
Okay, so it's not random. I've been researching. My favorite is history. So I really, you know, Harriman State Park is named for the Gilded Age railroad magnate Edward Harriman. And so I sort of took a Gilded Age dive into history, and also in Harriman State Park and Bear Mountain, there's a lot of Revolutionary history. So I've been diving in there, and we know that we have a chapter on Washington right in our treasure book. So I've been taking a pretty deep dive historically, and through that process doing lots of little hikes all around the park. So sort of all of that helped me decide that I was going to try to find a place on my paper map that I could try to put this treasure map onto.
Well, let me ask, like, diving into the history part. I always get a little leery when people start getting out of the book. So I'm curious to what you found in your history research that led you to specific points, and just flat out ask, like, how valid do you think it is if you're pulling it from somewhere outside the book?
Right. You know, people ask that a lot, and I've grappled with it too. You know, different people, like, you have to stay within the chapter. Stop looking outside of the chapter. No, you have to look for clues throughout the whole thing. For me, there's so many things I don't know. Like, I didn't know much about the Gilded Age. I didn't know that the Appalachian Trail was in my backyard. I didn't know it was the first section. So, and I didn't even know treasure hunts existed. So the first thing I did was pull up the Appalachian Trail information, right? And so each step, I needed to look outside the book. I don't know half.
I guess my question more is, like, what is there something specific that you found in your history research that pointed you towards a path towards where you're looking, or where the area that you're looking at?
Yeah. So can I honestly answer it? Sure. I'm on my 8th notebook full of information. I probably read.
You and Megan should hang out more, I think.
I love history, and one of my Pokemon solves with Johnny Law is solid history based. And so it's hard when you're able to, you hear that you're not supposed to use outside the book, but when things are matching up so completely specific, it's hard to be like, just a coincidence.
Right.
Yep, absolutely. And so I've tried to come up with theories, both theories just within the AT chapter, theories within the whole book, theories. So I'm holding very quietly over here in New York that you got to look, you got to learn, you got to read between the lines.
Oh, so you're not going to tell us what drove you to that area in the history? Is that what I'm getting? That's okay. That's a Jaws pod thing.
It's only because we probably don't have 7 hours to go over.
Oh, you're right. We do not.
Stay tuned, guys, for the next 10 episodes.
Yeah, we'll have Trisha on. We have an 18-part series with Trisha on herself. So no, okay, sorry. So, okay, go to whatever. What's the next piece of this that we need that's important?
Yeah, so I mean, maybe the next slide is the next one that just shows the picture of the map overlay on it. So just trust me that all of this little history mining that I've done led me to sort of look at this area.
Okay.
Along on Discord. Yep, there you go. The picture on the left, I used Canva and I tried to stimulate the scale that it would be just to see if I was on the right track. But I just wanted to use my paper map, old school, and so that's on the right there. So somewhere along the way on Discord, someone said that maybe the triangles, maybe the begin here triangle isn't where you're supposed to start. Maybe it's where you're supposed to, all these different things. So once that person said that, and I'm sorry, I don't remember, I started thinking of the two triangles differently. So I took my overlay and I used the smallest triangle. And, I don't know if you've seen it, but it seems like there's a little dot on that triangle. People have talked about a little dot hanging off of there, a pretty perfect dot. So I decided that dot was very similar to the dots on my paper map that are next to parking areas. And I chose the Harriman train station in Arden, which is pretty near Harriman's estate that he had built during the Gilded Age. And also that train station is where hikers that are going to be coming from the city, from New York City, would get off. And so I know that JCB has mentioned he wanted to make it as accessible to as many people as possible. And that is one surefire way to get a lot of people into this area. So I put my triangle there, the little triangle, and I did, I tried a variety of things, and I ended up lining up some things based on some different history that I knew, and I ended up being able to line up about 6 or 7 icons onto the map, and they're pretty compelling, I think. So I wanted to share those with everybody.
Is this map something that's accessible to everyone? Would everyone know about the specific map that you're using?
So I think so, because not only do all the visitor centers around here, they sell this specific map set, but you can download the New Jersey New York Trail Conference maps on Avenza. You can get you can use those maps. You can get them at the library. Like these, I'm pretty sure that this is the gold standard map for this area.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I'm interested to see how you line up the icons with places on your map.
Yep.
Oh, I see Wide World of Sports. All right, there we go.
There we go. Let me just get my notes here. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't know how, if you want me to go point by point. I don't want to, go.
Yeah, no, I don't know. What's the give us the high points here. What's important?
I'll give you. Okay, so I'll just give a couple. I know I sent you slides for 10 of them, but I'll give you a couple, and then you can decide if you want a few more. How about that?
Sounds great.
So starting at the parking area, when I line it up the way I want it, it turns out the little X where we think it says 1727 Northeast, or it could say a few other things depending on how you're interpreting it. That X exactly goes over State Road 17.
Okay.
And so that was pretty cool. It wasn't next to it. It wasn't, it was right over it. And that's going to be important. It's going to be important later. And I noticed that probably you've noticed there's 3 faint arrows around the map. They're some icons are really strong and some are thin, light. So the little arrow, one of the little arrows in this orientation is pointing directly in that direction.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting. If we're traveling on my paper map down that road, down that road. This is my favorite, actually. This is my favorite one. And this will give you an example of how the history and the deep learning came together. So we have the skier, and he lines up on my paper map on an actual section of the Appalachian Trail called Agony Grind. And I'm an 80s kid, and I grew up seeing ABC Wide World of Sports every weekend. It was a big deal. And I remember when I saw the Agony Grind, the first thing that popped into my head was that opening trailer where the announcer's talking about the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. So the skier being on Agony Grind is significant because that phrase was sort of developed because of the famous ski jumper that had that horrible tumble. And Bear Mountain had it had a popular ski jump. So I thought it was sort of a cute play on words that the agony.
I definitely remember that, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And that guy just he tries to bail at the bottom of a ski jump and he just bites it. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from.
Are you supporting this? Are you supporting this theory, Bruce?
Well,
her thinking is sounding so much like mine. I'm like, oh, Bruce isn't gonna like this one, and I love it.
Well, if you love it, Megan, then you probably know how I feel about it.
So I've done that hike, the Agony Grind hike. It earns its name. It's a very short section to get sort of up on that plateau, and my feet were hurting. So I thought a cute play on the words was agony of the feet. My feet were really hurting. So I thought that could be a fun, playful. But not only that, when it's oriented correctly, the skier's pole, the back facing pole, lines exactly horizontally on the UTM, the blue lines on that map, and his skis kind of fall right on Route 17. So I felt like that's a little a little spidey senses there. That was feeling pretty good.
Okay.
Wordplay.
Yeah. How about the other icons? I'm curious. I know Megan wants to hear how the rest of the icons line up as well.
So there's the bushel of apples. Some people have said it's fruit, other things. In this orientation, that basket of apples lines right up on a intersection in Harriman called Times Square, and it's called Times Square because it's like an intersection of 4 or 5 trails, and there's a giant rock there, and it says Times Square because it's like a giant meeting place. And so that bushel of apples lands right on my paper map. In addition, depending on if you're looking at those faint lines, like bold lines, some look like scribble lines. There's you could make the case for kind of an arrow around that basket of apples. And how I have my map oriented, that arrow is pointing geographically in the direction of the real New York City. So could be something there. Could be something. Okay. Another two things that might get people thinking is, there's a few symbols on the map that I don't think there's a consensus with. One of them is there's 5 or 6 dots or smudges by the butterfly. And yeah. So in my orientation, where I have my overlay on the map, those smudges fall over Stahahe Brook. Stahahe is an Mohegan Indian word, which means stones in the water. So I'm interpreting those blotches as stones, and they're right there on Stahahe Brook. So that's potential. It could be potentially. And now this is I really think this is a fun one, where people have seen where the bald man icon is. It also says AT and sort of looks X'd out. Right. So I tried a little wordplay there because when I traced my overlay, I traced the circle, but not the bald guy. And when I put it on my map, that circle falls right onto the word rock from the range of Black Rock Mountain. It falls directly over that word rock. So I decided to read it more like a rebus, maybe, I guess you call it. And so I'm reading that as rock at railroad crossing, or rock at railroad, because often, the two X's can stand for railroad. And I'm choosing my rock to be that other mysterious symbol that we can't all agree on, which is that sort of rock giant looking thing above the butterfly. That
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
guys know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Looking at it.
So on my map, that rock thing falls right on the Metro North Railroad. It sits right on top of the railroad, and that's the rail line that takes hikers to the Harriman Station from my starting spot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. And then the last thing that is also kind of a rebus, and then I'll wrap up. I think I've hit most of them. Is when we were talking about 1727. So the little X was on Highway 17. I chose to interpret it, and this wasn't my idea. Someone else gave me the idea to read it as 17 to 7. So if we travel south down Highway 17, we're going to hit Seven Lakes Drive, which is a really important east-west road through the park. It's one of the roads through the park that's open all winter. Many aren't. So if we hang the left on Seven Lakes Drive, so we're going 17 to 7, and we travel northeast, we're going to get to Lake Tirati. The very first section of the first section was Elk Pen, which is by Agni Grind, to Lake Tirati. Even though the first completed section was all the way from basically where that skier icon is, all the way to Bear Mountain. They did it in stages, and the first stage finished at Lake Tirati. So we took 17 to 7 Lakes Drive, and now we're going up 7 Lakes Drive to Lake Tirati, and the compass symbol, the east, one of the, the east arrow falls right on 7 Lakes Drive and the boundary of Lake Tirati. So I felt that those were some pretty compelling matches, although all my interpretation, I've interpreted them.
Sure.
And so it could be biased. It very easily could be biased, but they feel really good.
It always does. So what? So where's the box? That's the $100,000 question there. Where are you looking for it?
So I have looked all over it. So this section, I have more that I've done with it. I've done some circle overlays. I've done all sorts of things. I've thought many times that I've known where this box is. Using circles over this, I pinpointed a very awesome area. I went boots on the ground, did not find it. I also am looking over in Bear Mountain. I have another area that I'm looking over there. Bruce, I think you talked about having multiple ideas in different sections. So I do. But as I was preparing to speak to you, I found a really weird thing. I found a really bizarre thing, and I think it's my second to last slide, maybe, that I sent you. Because
okay, John will pull that up. Yeah, I'm very curious to hear what this is.
I've got a scrapbook.
Let me see. It might be. It's the one that might be either before or after. I think it might be. Maybe it's the last one. It says bonus clue maybe on the top.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So as I was preparing, I guess the elephant in the room on my, what I've been talking about now is what about Little Rock Pond?
No, not at all.
The dashed line so clearly matches not Little Rock Pond, but the side trail, right, off of Little Rock Pond. I think it's called Green something or other, Green Mountain something.
Green Mountain Trail, I think, yeah.
Right. So as I was preparing for this, remember that I said that the bald man icon fell over rock.
Yes.
Up by the skier. What really drew me to this area also was something called Island Pond. And one of the little faint arrows, points directly to the word pond. as does the handle of the magnifier. Points to that area. And I thought, wait a minute, Rock Pond, that sounds familiar.
Huh.
If I can find little, that would be fun. And I'm like, there's nothing little. I've been all over this park. There's nothing little. But then I, disciplined myself and started looking, and down by the bald man icon, the way I have it laid on my map, the one of the X's by the T directly touches the word little.
Oh.
So no, I Little Rock Pond right in my New York map. And I don't know what that means. I know that we've all through the 14 states, you could probably find a bald, you could probably find a gap, we know that names, which is why it's so tricky, right? The treasure map is so ambiguous because the whole East Coast has a very similar topography. I mean, the Appalachians are very similar. So you could find a bald here, I could find a bald there. So I think names have something to do. And so maybe this clue that I just found today, this Little Rock Pond intruding on my New York map, maybe we're supposed to jump around somehow. Maybe we're supposed to find. So my homework is going to be to see if I can use that technique to get me onto the other side of my map to Bear Mountain specifically. So that's what I'm going to be working on.
All right. How many times have you been boots on the ground for this?
I don't know. I wish I would have kept track.
So a lot.
A lot. I mean, I before this month, once a week easily.
Oh,
I think I've been beat, Bruce.
I think there's a new determinator on the block. Of course, you don't have to drive 9 hours, Trisha, and sleep in your car like Jaws does. So
I know, and I'm so thankful. But that could also be my bias. It doesn't,
Oh, sure.
It doesn't matter. I'm having a great time hiking. It's wonderful.
All right. So I have one question for you too that I was thinking as I was watching your solve. In one of the 1-year anniversary interviews that JCB just did, he said that he knows that searchers have been within 200 feet of this box. Has this place been out in public theories? Has it been on social media? Is there anything that makes you think someone that he knows would have been within 200 feet in this area?
So I know that I posted pictures of my agony grind because on the steps going up to get to the first part of the agony part, I found a geodetic marker, and it has the number 30 on it, and 30. Okay, I'll just say it. The compass, we know it's an AI compass, and a compass is not divided by 12 normally. It's usually 4, 8, 16, 32. 12 is not a typical. So 360 divided by 12 is 30. So I happen to like 30. And okay, I'll give away one more thing.
Okay.
The ski jump at Bear Mountain, the angle of the jump is 30 degrees.
Oh, very good.
I have more 30s. I happen to be a fan of 30s. Could be also that the compass, because of 12, is related to months, related to time. Could be related to a lot of things. But right now, I'm working the 30 angle. That's my fun little.
Very good.
Angle.
Megan, do you have any questions about her solve or any thoughts? Anything jump out?
Yeah, I like that you included how the dot next to the triangle, how you were using that, because I'd seen a lot of people talk about it. I was burdened while I was trying to work on this, the fact that those triangles weren't, even triangles, and do they really mean begin here? And how do you know, even though one says begin here, what's the purpose of the one at the end? Why would he use the same marking for a start and a stop? And the fact that they aren't the same size, and one has a dot, and so at least you've marked that part down. You've figured out a train stop. I like that idea. So are you beginning on that first big triangle?
No. I mean, yes and no. No, really, I use the triangles as just positioners, really.
Even with the words begin here, what do you think that means?
So you know how some people have flipped it upside down and read it as 1938? So over on the other side of the park, at the top of Bear Mountain, there's a tower called Perkins Tower. And up there, there's more geodetic markers from the year 1938. And when you're up on top of Perkins Mountain, around where those markers are, and I've definitely posted pictures of my car, I think, on Discord up there looking around. From there, you have a gorgeous view of, you know, the lands around, and on a clear day, you can see the New York City skyline. So I kind of like looking around on those 1938 geodetic markers. Again, just another idea to throw out there.
Well, very good. Let me ask a question about what JCB has said about the AT box, and then the three ways to get there. And one being that you can get to a fairly exact location with the chapter. How does that? Have you considered that? Do you have a good exact spot that you're looking at? Or how are you figuring that one out? Or are you just on maybe the other two solves that get you kind of close, and the other one maybe not as close, but in the right region, I guess?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because I the first 4 or 5 months, I would not use the treasure map at all. I was so mad at the treasure map. So I pulled apart, I was playing grammar, I was playing history, and I felt like I had a pretty good handle on a location based on grammar. And based on some of the wordplay. But lately I've also been thinking, I don't think we've talked enough about, he didn't just say, he said 3 distinct ways, right? So map skills in my mind is one way. So all this stuff that I've been talking about, that's a mapping thing. But then there's also history. So maybe connecting the dots through history might be a way, or maybe wordplay, like people have talked about rebuses, or people have talked about, or maybe for those, you know, scientific people, maybe there are like ways you have to look for encoded information in the digital layers of the map. That's another distinct way. I don't hear people talking about distinct ways. I hear people talking about using their map in 3 different ways. So I don't know how you feel about that. Do you have any opinions about that?
I do. I don't know if I need to get into them. I think, well, that's fine. We can as we talk about the other questions I have here, I think maybe we can get into some of that. I can't disagree with you. I don't even have a one coherent solve on this. I have some thoughts, some ideas about where maybe I'll do it, but yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it could be any of those methods to get there. I'm just looking at, like, I'm very caught up on the fairly exact location that John said. So to me, that's a pretty small area, like 10 yards by 10 yards, or something like that. So that's kind of what I was trying to see if you're able to narrow that down to a manageable, searchable, reasonably searchable area, I guess. Reasonable being very subjective. So
a couple of times, I think 4 different times. I think within 2 weeks of reading the book, I was convinced that I solved it.
Yeah,
literally convinced, and I'm so embarrassed. So embarrassed.
Now we all know how it feels.
I didn't sleep the whole night. I woke my husband up early. I'm like, you have to take me hiking. It was like 2 miles into the park. I'm like, it's here. It's clearly here. I solved the whole thing. I'm a genius. Like, you must take me. And yeah. So, and that was a fairly specific spot.
Okay.
And that was my failing forward moment. And it was
sure.
It was so humbling, right? But in this little thing that I presented today, using some circles to overlay and all different things, I came up with a pretty narrow spot that happens to fall between the Appalachian Trail and the Long Trail. So in Vermont, they have the Long Path, but here in New York, we have the Long Trail. And so, I mean, the Long Path, it's the other way. Sorry, we have the Long Path, they have the Long Trail. And I searched there. We went there. My husband and I hiked around there, and I would go back in the spring with more time. It was already getting pretty cold. And then over on the Bear Mountain side of things, combined with how I interpreted the language and all my grammar work, I have a narrow area that we just recently hiked around that I want to go back in the spring. But as you know, you've been boots on the ground a lot. You you can have a 5 foot by 5 foot area, and you could spend a month searching that. It's tough.
And we have, haven't we?
Bruce doesn't
No.
call me the Determinator for nothing.
I do, definitely. You've earned that name, buddy. You definitely have. Now, there's something that you brought up, Trisha, that I do like, because one of my theories is, if it's not LRP, like to me, LRP is such a big area, and if you have to figure out what other trail that is based off this map, like that's going to be hard to do, I think. But that's why I like the idea of it being LRP. And then I think someone even on Discord the other night said the searchable area of LRP is like 3 million square feet. So it's not like we're getting handed, here's LRP, just go pick up the box. But what I like about what you talked about was taking the map and overlaying it on your location, especially because you had a scale that was relatable, that you could tie back to the box of 36,000 foot view, which I thought was an interesting thing, because that was my big hang up about, if it's not LRP, then how are you going to make any kind of exact spot? But you found a location with a map that has a relatable scale, and you overlaid the map on it. So that kind of changed my thinking a little bit on how we do that. So no, that's definitely interesting. And then maybe there's a way of lining the icons up to, that's where I'm at. I'm trying to do with LRP, just figuring out a way that the icons intersect or cross or what have you, to get a X marks the spot kind of solve. So yeah, so I can't, Megan's going to say I don't like it, but I think there's some definite things in there that we could take from that and be able to apply for different solves. So
Yeah, I
any other
got a
thoughts?
question. Asking the expert here. So do you think there's a significance to the fact that he calls it the Appalachian Footpath Box and not the Appalachian Trail Box?
Yep.
That's a perfect Jaws answer. Thank you. That's a perfect Jaws answer. Yep. Next.
I do because, and this is where the history is important. This is where the history comes into play, because Benton Mackay, who was the dreamer, right? The dreamer of this footpath. He dreamed about a footpath. He hiked, but he wasn't envisioning this what we have today, what the Appalachian Trail has become. He really envisioned connected communities, connected by a footpath, little communities where like self-sustained communities, almost like, think of like old times, like little farming communities. And he really wanted to create a balance between, he's a regional planner also. So he wanted to create a balance where city people could get out of the city, which he hated. He wanted to get out of the city, but he also recognized the use, the need to balance it. We need to have cities, we need to have, so I think that's a nod to that. I think the use of footpath, because we don't call it that. We all know it by Appalachian Trail. We don't call it the Appalachian Footpath. So I think that's an important piece. And of course, he was in Vermont when he first sort of had that aha moment.
Okay. That kind of goes back to, we were chatting today. I've started doing a lot more research on it, and chatting with Megan before we came on today. And I started asking her about the predominance of the word blue left and right. Like it's a lot of stuff in there. And then Megan like blew my mind on that, and with what she had found. So how does blue, if you want to share, how does blue relate to this? And I think it's fairly applicable to the footpath.
Interesting. So, I cued off of the look of the box, and tried to sort of like to me that calls to a very particular time in art, and it's like sort of that before that Gilded Age time, like right around that Gilded Age time. But of course we know about the Blue Ridge Mountains, and
Sure.
blue is there. I am I'm looking into color theory also because we have the Motherwell quote at the beginning where he talks about rainbows. And, some people have pointed out that 1727 was the year that Isaac Newton passed away. And he was the scientist who gave us the spectrum. He was the first one to use a prism to break the colors into their spectrum.
Okay.
So maybe we have to use blue. I heard someone talking today about I think it was Habeas treasure. He was talking about maybe we need to be looking at warm colors and cool colors, which is like a modern day extension of color theory.
Sure.
So maybe we need to be looking in cool places. I'm not sure. I haven't done too much blue.
So I'll give you a little nugget of blue. At one point, I actually was looking at New York for this box as well. And one of the things that I discovered, history, you get into history a lot. The military back during the Civil War, the branch based out of New York was famous for their blues that they wore.
Very good.
Fabulous.
Megan, did you want to share what we talked about earlier about your theory on blue, or are you keeping that one close hold?
Oh, I'll let you know. So the Appalachian Trail.
Not right now.
The Appalachian Trail marker is a white blaze, and then all of the footpath trails off of it are blazed in blue. And so you know that you're staying on course if you're on white, but the smaller off courses are blue. And he made it pretty apparent that he loved the blue on the box and that the blue was pretty important. And so and he's talked about different times throughout the book, throughout his interviews and the books, that sometimes when he tells us what the boxes are made of, it's not that important, but he made it seem pretty predominant in this chapter. So I think blue might be pretty important. And then that's why it's called the path, because we're supposed to be on a blue trail.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And Jaws, you brought up a couple weeks ago about the boxes tying into it. So go ahead. I'm sure you want to go and weigh in on that.
So yeah, I mean, rehashing, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago? I think that the boxes themselves are clues. Yes, he didn't give specific instructions how he wanted them to absolutely look, but did he have some kind of input on them? I'm sure he did. As I spoke about, like how to me the past and future box resembles what you would see on ski slopes. The Pokemon box represents Japanese puzzle box, so you need to find a tie to Japan. This box, clearly what Megan was saying, like he loves the color blue, like blue's important. So if blue's not important to your solve, there's probably something wrong with your solve on this box, is what I would say.
Yeah.
And if I jump in, so a little piece that I don't know if I wrote it on my slide, but at the beginning at the Harriman train station where I have my little triangle up there, if you're a hiker coming from New York and you're riding the train and you want to get to the AT, you're going to get off the train and you're going to take the blue blazed Sapphire Trail south to hit the AT. And it's a really nice trail. It's a really nice, easy walkable trail. And so there's a little blue for you.
Okay. I like how you're tying different chapters and things like that into your solve there. That's good. I'm a big fan of the full circle thing where he says, we've done all this and we've come full circle. I like the idea of like being able to draw some circles on the box and hopefully get some intersecting things or triangulation or whatever. Especially with the compass. I think the compass not being really marked to show you what is north and nothing about it. So I think it's a nod to like you need to use a drawing compass to draw some circles on there. Also with the rainbow trail, I look at a rainbow as an arc. And that's, I think this is the only chapter that has a quote at the beginning of the part 2 boxes. I think it's the only one that has a quote in front of it. So I'm a big fan of it. I have I think there's a Joy Serenade tied to that. I won't get into that because I know how people feel about it. I do believe Joy Serenade is about the lion's share for sure, but I think coincidentally or not coincidentally, they can also tie to these, but that's another episode, I guess. So thoughts on the circle theory? Have you guys looked at that at all?
Yep.
Trisha,
Absolutely.
tell us what you think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think someone on the Discords has been sharing. I've seen it, or maybe a couple people have been showing how they would draw circles. I've seen some people making circles that end up connecting a group of icons, and that's really compelling. I do have particular placements of where I put my circles, and and I used cues directly from the map. And
Okay.
it's tied to my number 30. So
Very good.
I have been trying to come up, and that using that circle methodology on the area that I showed you today. I pinpointed that one pretty exact area, and we did go boots on the ground there. But I was thinking today, someone on Discord was talking about some really deep science, math stuff, which I'm not at that. But when I was trying to learn a little bit about it, I was thinking maybe instead of overlapping all of the circles like a Venn diagram and looking in the middle, it could be the opposite also. It could be with the overlapping circles, we're eliminating, there's a lot that could be.
Got it. You guys, Megan and Jaws, have you looked at the circle theory at all, or what's your? Jaws like, nah.
Nah.
How about the coin? Any thoughts that the coin might be one of the three solves that we can look at? Trisha, anything?
Methods.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I've used the coin in a bunch of different ways.
Oh.
The very first way, in the introduction to part 2, he says something like he's talking about the process of the first 23 chapters and how the treasures are developing the stories that's developing it, and then he talks about having license to deviate from that pattern, and he uses the phrase, I don't have it in front of me, but he says something like to varying degrees. And if you look at all 4 coins, they have varying degrees represented, by their sides, and the Appalachian Trail coin is the smallest angle.
Yes.
So it varies the least. And so I used that to justify continuing the pattern of the first 23 chapters, looking at as a storyline, so, sort of justifying my deep dives into history.
Okay.
And then also that it also follows, like you said, it's the only part 2 that has a quote at the beginning. And so I felt like Appalachian Footpath Box is the most similar, and by degree. That's one way that I use the coin.
Okay, Megan, did you have a thought on that, on the coin?
Nope, I'm out on the coin.
I thought you had something. Okay, all right.
No.
Hey, so I have one. I'm going to actually pull it up and show here what mine is, if I can do that. I don't know. It's not looking like it's going. So look, am I sharing, Jaws? No.
Nope.
Yes. No.
Got nothing.
All right. I don't know what I'm doing. It says it's sharing, but that's all right. I'll just talk through it. The oh, I know what I can do. Anyway, that's all right. So obviously we all know the coin. You talked about the angle on there. I think that the circle on the coin is representative of the circle where the tree is on the map. The look here tree, and the end of the line I think is like where you would line it up to the begin here triangle. Put it on the point of the begin here triangle, and then sizing it with the book, that your compass, and then drawing a circle. I'm going to try it again because I haven't. Now I pulled it back, but I literally did it. I drew a circle, and I think that the circle is where the treasure is going to be, somewhere in that circle, where along that circle. So that's my kind of theory with the coin and with the circle, because that, like I said, people are coming up with all kinds of theories on the other coins. X marks the spot or state lines or whatever. This one is like such an acute angle that it's hard to line it up with anything. So I think it's literally pointing to the middle of that circle, saying, that's the tree is where you need to look, and the length of the line is what you need to do. Put on the begin here and draw your circle around, and that somewhere on there, and then trying to find the other arcs and things that intersect with it, I think is going to be where the money is. But that's just maybe one of the ways. I thought it was an interesting look. And I could actually, I drew it on my book for the first time ever. And you can.
Yeah, you hurt my heart when I saw that.
I know, sorry. But yeah,
I hope that's erasable.
What's that? It
I
doesn't
hope that's
matter.
erasable. Did you use a pencil?
I did, but I'm not, it doesn't, I mean, yeah, anyway, I like it. So we'll keep it, I guess. But,
I can add to that. I can add some weight to what you just did there. You know, people have been talking about what's missing. We have the what's missing page 90. So what's missing on the dashed line trail? There's a dash missing inside the looking glass, right? The tree's there, but a dash is missing. So if you use the short side of the coin angle as the dash that's missing, you might be able to use that instead of.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Maybe within the circle that you've just created.
Okay.
I
see.
Now create your circle and then take the coin and line up that dash in a way that makes sense to complete that section of the trail.
Right.
And maybe you're going to point to where you should be looking.
And then the end of the line is the treasure. I can definitely see that. That's an interesting take on that. Very good. Wow. All right. I think we're gonna need to get wrapped up here. I don't know how much time. Oh, where'd you go, Trisha? She just bailed on me. She's like, I gotta go. I'm out. All right, fine, we're done.
Oh, the power just went out.
What? Your power just went out?
We just lost power.
No.
Perfect timing.
Sorry, everybody.
No, that's funny. I mean, it's sad for you because you can't see what you're doing, but I think interesting way to end the podcast. So on that note, Trisha, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and the effort you put into the slides and the detailed explanation. Thanks so much. And don't stumble around and hurt yourself in the dark, please. So
thanks so much. So fun. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, all right, folks, that wraps it up for this episode of X Marks the Pod. Jaws, Megan, be safe out there with your impending snowstorms. And
stay out of Arkansas. No Pokemon hunting for the next week, please.
Exactly. Megan will let you know when it's safe to hunt in Arkansas again. So I'm guessing like May is when you're gonna tell people it's good to.
You guys all stay out till May, but
just to be safe. You don't want to take any chances. You got to be safe. So, all right,
guys.
folks.
If you got any theories you want us to talk about, or if you're interested in being a special guest, hit up one of us on Discord or shoot an email to our email address. We'd love to have more people on like Trish. Thanks again for coming on, Trish. I loved what you had to share and just great info tonight.
Yep. All right. So congratulations, Trish, for being the first X Marks the Pod special guest. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. And until then, happy hunting.
bye.
Bye.
Adventures calling, treasure awaits. Join us on a journey, let's open the gates. Welcome to the pod where the treasure is found. X marks the pod, let's gather around.